announcement which the legislative has charged us to read. So it says, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the ability of the virus to spread from person to person, Governor Gary Herbert has implemented a number of executive orders directed at controlling the spread of the virus by minimizing face-to-face interactions. Public gatherings are strongly discouraged by CDC, State of Utah, and local health departments since they facilitate face-to-face contact and pose an elevated risk for virus transmission. The Division of Water Resources and the Board of Water Resources Chair have determined that public gathering at board meeting presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who attend, and will conduct this meeting using a fully electronic format. This meeting format is authorized by recent amendment to the Utah Code and executive order by Governor Herbert, and will be temporarily used in place of the in-person public meetings that usually occurs. Anyone wishing to comment on the meeting's agenda topics or to observe the meeting may do so by logging on to the Division's webpage at www.water.utah.gov/comments/ where instructions and links are provided. So with that, we will have a roll call of the board members who are present. So when I call your area and name, if you will indicate if you are present. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
I am present, Mr. Chair.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Here.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tenner.
Present.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Present.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Present.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
Present.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Here.
And I am Blaine Ipson, representing Severe River, chair of the board. Mr. Director Todd Adams, will you go through the list of staff members who are attending this meeting online right now, and others who may be, will you identify staff and others who are present, please?
Sure, thank you. And we apologize for getting started a little bit late this morning. We were having some technical difficulties, but we're there, so thank you. As I look through the list of participants, we have 28 inside the Google Meet component. Let's start out with, there's a couple phone numbers. One is Randy Crozier, the other one is Maurice Egbert. We've got Ben Merritt, Candace Hassenjager, Carmen McDonald, Jacqueline Pacheco, Joel Williams, Kim Wells, Lindsay Russell, Marcy Larson, there's Marisa, Paul Gedge, Randy Staker, Russell Hadley, Shalane DiBernardi, Todd Stonley, Tom Cox. Unknown is Jim Lemon, and that's who we have on from staff right now.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome everyone. And who would have ever guessed, I definitely would have, that we would still be having our December board meeting virtually. Normally, we've been able to have the December one. To me, has been a fun, special one where we've been able to meet in person and get to see a lot of the staff members and their significant others. And it has been a real delight for me, but this year we'll just do what we've been doing and look for better things coming down the road. Just a few little housekeeping items. Those of you who are on phones, in order to mute your phone or unmute it, the *6 is what is used to do that. If you're on a computer, a Control-D will mute or unmute your voice on that. If you can keep your devices muted except for when you're speaking, and then when you do speak, to make a comment or motion or whatever, presentation, if you can identify yourself when you are speaking, that would be really good and really appreciated and help us keep things straight.
Mr. Chairman, this is Todd just again, and just a reminder, this is the briefing meeting right now. We don't start the board meeting until 10. So.
Right. Yep. This is the 8 o'clock briefing meeting. So let's go over on our briefing meeting agenda now. Number 2, discussion of the board agenda items. So if each of you can look at the agenda for the 10 o'clock board meeting, let's go through that and review that. The first item on it is the approval of minutes from the last meeting. Have all you had a chance to look at the minutes, and do you have any comments or questions or suggestions, changes on any of the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, this is Norm, and I looked at them and I did not have any changes.
Okay. I looked at it, I read them myself. I did not have any myself either. Charles, you always have something. Do you have anything on them?
Well, there are a few little things, but nothing of significance.
Okay.
Just a few spelling errors and things like that. Doesn't affect the message that's given in them.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion to adopt the minutes if that's appropriate at this time.
Well, we'll do that in our other meeting. Right now, we're just going through what's on the agenda. So,
Right.
okay. Any other board members have any comments or discussion on the minutes? Okay, the next item on the agenda will be the NRCS snow report, and Jordan Layton will be presenting that, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. After that, then we will go into committal of funds. And we have one item. It's project RE433. It's West Cache Irrigation Company. And again, this is on a committal of funds. My understanding is we'll have Sid Monk, the president of the company, Mike Spackman, vice president, and Stephen Wood, engineer, will be participating in our meeting with us. This is Cache County. Charles, it's your area, and Russell Hadley is the staff member who will be presenting the information on it. Charles, Russell, do you have anything you'd like to cover on this project?
Mr. Chairman, I just imagine the rest of the board's noticed it. They're making a couple of additional requests on the bottom line. They wish to go 30 years instead of 25 years, and they want to be forgiven for the first year's payment. And they claim it is because of low dairy prices, and I have dairymen in my valley too, but I don't want to see them fail for being too much of a stickler. But it appears between their two projects they've done in the last recent time, I don't know if it's the last year or more than a year, but they're stretching themselves pretty thinly, it appears. So I'll turn that.
Okay. Yes. Do you want me to present the project or anything right now, or?
Why don't you just go through it, a little discussion on it, and then this one I actually do like, in the sense that up front we know that they are going to be requesting something. So I compliment you, Russell, on having that. That should help us. At least we go through the things, and then we can have a discussion on what thoughts may be on their other project. But this is good. When I saw that, I had to smile, and I said, this is a lot better than a meeting or two ago when we had a pretty long discussion in our regular board meeting and kind of got surprised with the request for change. So this is good. Thank you.
Okay. West Cache Irrigation Company, they are going to replace the Hanson and Azola lateral ditches with one 6,300 foot long pipeline, and they're going to abandon the Azola pipe ditch. And since the project was authorized, it was bid. Bids came in higher than expected. Plastic pipe prices have gone up about 40% since the first project was bid last year. And labor, again, the cost of that was higher than expected. And since it was authorized, they obtained a water optimization grant from Utah Department of Agriculture and Food. and they got a $125,000 grant. So total cost went up to $1,046,000. And as stated, staff recommends 25 years repayment. They're originally authorized at 20 years repayment. And the company is going to request a term of 30 years repayment. And just so you know, the president actually would like to have this paid off in 25 years, but he got outvoted. Sid Monk, the president, got outvoted, and the company, the rest of the board members would like to request 30 years. And as far as the 1 year repayment delay, I would encourage the board to discuss this with Sid Monk and Mike Spackman about what's going on with dairy and beef and wheat prices up in that area. They've been getting hit hard. It's something about everything is lower for the farmers up there in agriculture, lower prices, and so they would like to discuss that with you. That's staff's report.
Okay, thank you, Russell.
Blaine, this is Shalane. Can I address? So I just wanted to clarify something for the board. That the date of repayment, the start date for repayments, is never part of the board motion anyway. Staff always, at least the intention is always that the company will always have 1 year of project use to get that income before they're required to make a payment anyway. So this, normally I wouldn't even have left this in the report, but because they specifically said COVID, we thought, well, the board should know that this request is being made, but I don't know that it's something you actually have to make a part of your motion or something that you have to act on. Just, maybe that you agree that you'll have a full year to use your project once it's completed before we require a repayment or something to that effect. But I just wanted to make that clarification and remind you that this project, when it first came for feasibility, the board's guidelines said they can't afford to pay this back in 15 years, but they came and asked you for 25 and the board agreed and said, okay, yes, 25. Now the price has gone up. So extending it to 30 would make that payment closer to what you agreed to with the 25 before. Anyway, so there's a couple different components, but that's kind of what's going on with this one. A few more things that are going on. So just wanted to clarify those things with you.
Oh, okay, thank you, Shalane. One question I had on that was, I understand that they do have a 1 year before they make their first payment. In my mind, the question that I had was, were they asking for 1 year beyond what we would give them? Were they asking basically for 2 years, was the question in my mind that came up when I saw that sentence.
That is correct. They would like an additional year in addition to their 1 year of use that they get. They'd like 2 years of use before payments begin. I'd like to correct myself. Yeah, it was authorized 15 years, and then they requested 25 years that was authorized, not 20.
So what was the payment when we, Russell, do you have that handy, the payment that we authorized with the 25 years?
Yeah, that's in the report. The recommendation is $16,300.
Yeah.
Now, at 25 years, it'd be $19,400, and at 30 years, it'd be $16,200.
Yeah, so the 16.2 would put it back with what we basically authorized on an annual payment anyway.
A little bit lower. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, $100.
Mm-hmm.
The difference being 30 versus 25, and the other difference, rather than just having the first payment in a year, it would be 2 years. So those are the differences they're asking for. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
So Mr. Chairman, based on that discussion, when would the first annual payment begin?
Boy, let's see.
Well, this is Shalane. I would say if they're planning on construction next year, then we would normally give them until December 1st of 2022 until their first payment was due. So if their request is granted, that would be December 1st of 2023. So they would have 2021 to build their project. And then normally we wouldn't even require a payment until the end of 2022. Their request would put it December of 2023.
Actually, they're about ready to begin construction. They've already got it out to bid, and they actually do plan on beginning construction as soon as they can get the contract signed with us. Well, they're pretty much ready to go. So they're going to have this installed by the irrigation season next spring. So they will have all next year to use the system. So payments really could begin December 1st of 2022.
Mr. Chair, is it okay if I make a comment? I mean, it's not a ton of money, so I'm not, if Charles, you think this is good, like I'm inclined to just approve that additional 1 year, but I just think with the timing that you guys have laid out, even with Russell saying it's being done, it's kind of hard to make a claim that it's like a COVID deferment. Like it's kind of hard to be like, we're making a COVID deferment. I mean, I hope we're not, we're not dealing with COVID at the level we're dealing with COVID at the end of 2021 and going into 2022. And so that's, I mean, that again, it's small, it's a small amount. And I mean, we want to make sure that we support the operations of this type of activity. So I'm not completely opposed to it, but the COVID thing makes me a little, makes me question it a little bit.
I see a lot of smiles and a lot of nods, and I think there's a pretty good agreement with you, Juliet, on that. I think the COVID is kind of a weak justification to push it to 2023 is my personal take. Yeah. I mean, right now without doing anything, it looks like it would be 2022 almost.
Yeah, maybe we need to have that discussion with them to see if what their understanding of the payback date. But we approved a loan for them in the August meeting, and that was a $2.25 million job for 30 years, and I don't know if they're just a little overwhelmed with it all. I think they segregated those shareholders out on that previous project. I don't know if these guys are specifically segregated out from the rest of the shareholders in the company to pay this back or not.
They are not segregating this group. This is just regular shares out of the West Cache Canal, and they're not segregating this group. And I could tell you a little bit more about a conversation I had with the president, Sid Monk, on Tuesday. He had told me about, nobody in Cache County had to dump any milk because of this, COVID crisis where there was problems up at Gosner's Cheese. But they did up in Idaho. So some of these Idaho dairymen cut their prices of their milk by half to sell it to Gosner's, and Gosner's took the deal. So they were buying milk at half price from Idaho, and that dropped the price of milk up in Cache County. And so that did have some effect on them from COVID. And there's some problems too, as you know, with meat packing plants and the price of beef. So they have some justification that they think it's based on COVID causing the problem, but let them explain that.
Okay, other board members, what are your thoughts?
Hi, Blaine. Hey, it's Randy. Whether we like it or not, the farming community's probably been as hit with some of these COVID issues as any other sector in the economy out there. I get the joy of riding through the agricultural side as well as the oil side. So, I mean, there's challenges that are truly there. You know, depending on how it hits each individual producer is different, but there is definitely challenges out there.
So what would you recommend we do on this? What are your thoughts, Randy? Go 30 years, go to 2022 or 2023, December 1st of each. What are your thoughts on those? Well, the same question, Jim.
You know what? I realized that after he went quiet, I think he may have accidentally hung up. So I am going to make a quick call to Randy, because I think we just lost him. His phone number is gone.
His phone number is gone, so we'll try to get him back on. Thank you.
Okay. So Jim, and then Kyle, and then Norman.
But I might, if I could, before I make this quick call to Randy, if I could just make one more clarification. That's normally not part of your motion. We normally just give them the time that they need. So I really think this is almost a moot point. It's just that because they said COVID, we thought you should know.
Okay.
But so, thanks.
Well, we could, so if we say that we'll just leave that to your best judgment, the time of the first payment, then the issue becomes 25 years versus 30 years, right? Jim, thoughts?
I could go with either one of those, the 25 or the 30. You don't want them to have to default and come back to waive interest. Well, I guess there's not really any interest, but to waive things. So I would say, hey, I'm okay with going with the 30. And I would see how they respond to decide on the other part of that extra year.
Okay. Kyle.
I guess my recommendation at this point, I don't have a problem with either the 25 or the 30. I would lean more towards requiring a payment to be due in 2022 as opposed to pushing it off to 2023.
Okay. Wayne.
I agree with Kyle. I don't have a problem with 25 or 30 years. I think, however, the payment should start in 2022. If we're gonna, and I can see how they tie it back into the COVID situation with that deal in Idaho and some of those kinds of things. So the COVID thing really doesn't bother me much right now either. So.
Okay, Randy, are you back with us? Did we get Randy Crozier back?
His number's on the line or on the call.
I'm back. I just trying to get unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can go either way. I mean, there's certainly challenges out there for people.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Well, we'll listen to what they have. It sounds like, Charles, are you, it's your area, you willing to make a motion on this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I propose making the lower motion, and I will not address the start date. I'll leave that to staff.
Okay, so your intention then is to just do the 30 years with the lower payment, and then just let staff work out whether it's December 1st, 2022 or December 1st, 2023, and kind of leave the COVID thing just unmentioned in the motion. Is that what I'm hearing, Charles?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay.
But based on the board's policy, if they finish the project in 2021, the payment will be due in 2022.
Right. The end of 2022.
Yeah. Agreed. Yep.
Well, and at that point, I mean, they could come back if there's still a hardship or something. They could come back at that point.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's exactly right. The board already has a process in place, so they wouldn't even have to come to you. They would just have to submit something, and we would make that change. So,
yeah. Sounds great, especially if we're going to go 30 years. And like I said, that payment hopefully is manageable for them.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is under the special items category, project RC065. It's White Rocks Irrigation Company. They're asking for additional funds. My understanding is that they will not have any representation on the meetings today. They don't really need to on the special items with additional funds, but that's Uinta area. Randy, that's yours, and then staff, Ben. You want to visit with us on that, Randy and Ben?
Yeah, let me jump in. Basically, it's a dam safety grant's what it is, and as they got into the dam, they found things that had to be done that hadn't been part of the original stuff, and I mean, that's of no surprise. I mean, you get into it in almost any dam you open up, and anyway, I'll let Ben go from there, and he can explain things a little more to the board.
Thanks, Randy. So yeah, this project was approved by the board back in the August board meeting. There were $324,000 committed to the project. If you recall, this is for the White Rocks Irrigation Company. The Paradise Park Reservoir is located on the south slope of the Uintas. And basically what was going on is they were having sediment coming out of their outlet structure of the dam. So they were ordered by dam safety to lower the water level so that they wouldn't have a failure. And they have installed their 2 seepage collection systems and their filter drains. They found a couple other issues during construction, including they had a sag in one of their lines in the outlet line that they had to repair. Their inlet gate wasn't closing fully, and excuse me, was in a pretty serious state of disrepair and needed some upgrades on that. And also they ended up removing a lot more riprap off the downstream face of the dam for the safety of the contractor's employees than they were originally planning to. So all that comes out to about an additional $70,000 for the project. So that'll, if the board approves that, that'll be $387,000 from the board as a dam safety grant. And I've got a bunch of construction photos that I'm going to show during the board meeting, so that'll be kind of fun. Any questions on that?
So, Ben, the additional stuff, was it all required by dam safety?
That's correct. The items that were implemented were approved by dam safety as needing to be done. So yes.
Okay.
So I think that helps clarify. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Any other
So
questions?
I'm certainly the board even be glad to make a motion on it, but let's have some discussion.
Okay, any further discussion on that from the board? Questions? Okay, Randy, if you'll make a motion on that then.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Next thing on our agenda for the 10 o'clock meeting, new applications. We have one. It's RE444, Willow Creek Irrigation Company. That's in Sanpete County. That's in the area I represent. That's just a new application. Ben is staff member who's been assigned to be over that. Really, that's something we'll be talking about as time comes on. That one just, it's new. I don't think we won't be discussing anything other than we received a new one on that. Next item is planning reports, and there's some new developments on M&I and ag water use data, and Todd Stonley is going to be giving us an update on that. Todd, would you like to visit with us for just a little bit on that?
Not a whole lot to say, but it's kind of exciting developments in the last few years. A lot of it as a result of the legislative audit. We now have annual M&I data that's representative of a single year for 5 years. So we can now do a 5-year running average, and we're just wanted to show some of that data to you, as well as some of our annual data that now is coming through our water budget program for agriculture water use. So some exciting stuff.
Okay, good. We'll look forward to seeing what's on that then. Next item on our agenda will be the Lake Powell Pipeline Report, and Joel will be giving a presentation on that. Part of that will entail that, how do you pronounce that? Programmatic?
Yep.
Got that agreement that Joel will be, all the boards should have received copies of that and had time to kind of look at it. But Joel will be going through that, and my understanding is that as part of Joel's presentation, he will be asking for a motion and second and approval to enter for us to enter into that agreement. So Joel, why don't you visit with us a bit on this item on the agenda, please?
Yes, thank you. And I realized it's kind of a long and potentially confusing document. So I did prepare a one-page summary that is in the board folder that's available on the division's website. And I think we also had Lindsay send that out to all you board members. So we just wanted to make sure that was an option as well to kind of get a simpler understanding. But it's essentially, it's a common agreement that's produced by the Bureau of Land Management when they're having a project that has multiple land impacts like this one will, where there's interested tribes, interested land management agencies, different federal agencies, the state historic preservation offices of both Utah and Arizona. When we had some of these phone calls about this project, we had 60 and 70 people on the line, just all interested parties that have some kind of a stake in this, in land impacts due to this project. And so they created this programmatic agreement to kind of bring everybody together and say, hey, this is how we plan to address some of these issues. There will be more detailed documents as we get closer to construction, something that's called a historic properties treatment plan that will actually specify exactly what we do if we find an artifact, how it will be handled or curated if necessary. That'll go into more detail. This one is kind of more of a preliminary document just to bring the groups together, say, hey, here we all agree on this. So they call it a programmatic agreement, and it hopefully if you've glanced at it, you'll see it has a lot of different signatories, and there's kind of 3 levels of signatories. There's kind of required signatories where they're the ones that execute this document, and those include kind of the BLM, the State Historic Preservation Offices. I believe there were 5 signatories, and then there's a group of invited signatories where we have the authority to terminate the contract if, when the project, say, is completed and we're no longer in construction, or and so the board is an invited signatory, and then you have these other interested parties that kind of can sign on as concurring signatories, where they're saying, hey, we agree with this, and there was a significant number of those signatories where they're just basically signing on saying, yep, we were involved in this process, but they don't really have authority to terminate or execute the agreement. So that's what it is. One of the questions I think you will need to consider is whether you would like, if the board decides to sign this agreement, which would be staff's recommendation, is whether the chairman signs it or whether the director signs it on behalf of the board. And we've done agreements both ways in the past, and so I don't know if there's any discussion or preference on how that is handled.
What's your recommendation on that, Joel?
It's I don't necessarily have a preference or think that there's a right or wrong way to go. We've done it both ways, where the board has said, yeah, Todd, as director of the division, we'd like you to be the one to sign this and enter into this programmatic agreement. With Lake Powell Pipeline, where it is in the board's name, we've also had certain agreements where we think it just makes sense for the board to be the one that signs it. In this case, I don't know, where this is kind of a preliminary document that will end up being superseded by a treatment plan later down the road. It's not one that I see as like a critical, but yeah, it could go either way.
Director Todd, what's your thoughts?
It's the prerogative of the board. We will do it either way. You have given me authorization to sign on behalf of the board on other things, but it's up to you as the board.
Okay, board members, what's your thoughts? Do you want
Mr.
the director do it, or just have board, the chair?
Why don't we
do it?
have the chairman sign it? Give him a job.
You lobbying for a job, Charles? Other board members, Juliet?
This is Randy. I'm fine with having the chairman sign.
Yeah, I think, maybe Blaine, as chair, it's probably like really makes the point that, right, it's the board, but
okay.
I would support whatever everyone thinks is easiest.
Okay, Wayne?
I support that action too. My only question is what kind of a problem are we going to have logistically? If there's a time frame involved, that type of thing, getting the document to you, Blaine, to sign or whatever. That's my only question.
Which we've done lots of documents over the last year, haven't we, Shalane? We have a procedure in place where that has happened multiple times this year.
Yes, and mailing shouldn't be a problem. I don't know if there is a time frame, Joel, on when this has to be signed.
It is a little in the sense that all the other entities have already signed and they've just been waiting on the board. And because I made it clear, well, we've got this board meeting coming up in December, so everybody's kind of waiting on this. Is there an opportunity that Blaine could sign it electronically as a PDF, or does?
Yeah,
okay. That might be the best
we could
way.
probably get that taken care of. Yeah, if the board authorizes it and Blaine says so, I have his electronic signature. So
We've done that multiple times. It happens as quick as Shalane sends me an email. I look at it. I say, yep, put my signature on, and boom, it's done.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we've done multiple electronic signatures fairly quickly, Wayne, with individuals as needed. So
yeah. Kyle.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, Kyle.
Initially, I was going to recommend that the board authorize Todd to go ahead and sign it. But based on the other input from the board members, I'm in agreement that the chairman should go ahead and sign it as long as we have the capability to be able to do it electronically and do it in a timely manner.
Okay. Jim.
I'm in agreement with that. Or you can do it electronically. Let's go ahead and put your signature on there.
Okay, Norman. Norman must be muted.
looks like he stepped away. Oh, there he is. Looks like
There
he
he
stepped
is.
away from his desk or stood up. So
Yeah, he's on the phone. Well, why don't we just do that then? We'll need a motion, Jim, where this is down your area. You willing to make a motion on this?
Yes.
And so, Joel, can you get Jim some proposed language for a motion?
Yep, will do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next thing on our agenda will be the Bear River Development Report, right-of-way acquisition updates. Marisa is going to give us an update on that. Marisa, you want to give us a little sneak preview?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yay. After Todd Stonley and Joel Williams take the bulk of your presentation time, I will just do a very quick. All I have is we've closed on another parcel. This time it is a house, and so unfortunately the price is going to be a little higher than what the vacant land is. But it's just going to be letting you know. We wanted to do this just so you're aware of where that money is going. That you committed the $5 million, and also this is public information. Once we close on a piece of land, on a piece of property, so it's letting the public know as well where that money is going. That's it. Did I lose everybody?
Nope, Blaine's muted. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Next item on the agenda then will be adopting our 2021 meetings, and that was right at the front of the package. Last time we talked about the dates, there was a question on the May 6th date. There was a conflict, so we moved it to May 5th, the day before Wednesday. That's proposed. Board members, you've looked at those dates. They're the ones we talked about our last meeting. Any concerns on them now? I think it's basically what we talked about last time as I looked at it. Any board members have any questions or on those dates? January 28th, March 17th, May 5th, June 17th, August 15th, September 16th, October 28th, and December 9th.
This is Kyle.
Chairman.
This is Kyle. I'll go ahead. I'll just, I don't have a, first of all, I appreciate you making the accommodation. I'm the one that raised the conflict on the May 6th meeting. I'm in agreement with the date changes there as long as Todd guarantees that we'll be able to meet in person in March in St. George.
Okay, let me refute that, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay. I'm not going to be able to guarantee that, unfortunately. I will tell you that there has been some discussions with Utah water users about when and if this spring's water users workshop will be held. There's been a bunch of dialogue going back and forth between the executive committee and the board about whether to hold the meeting at all or rather do a 1 or 2 hour conference virtually in order to still meet with the members. So things are up in the air. Typically, we've scheduled the March meeting on the Wednesday afternoon, the last day of the conference. With that being said, we just don't know if there's going to be a conference yet. So we'll still plan on the 17th for now. And maybe we'll see you virtually down in St. George or wherever you're at. Kyle, you're welcome to drive down there and virtual in from St. George. But the meeting may be held virtually. There's still lots of things up in the air. I do know that there's other organizations that are planning meetings. But part of the discussion is the general average age of the Utah water users group is older and in the high risk category. So that's been a little bit nervous and scary. Hopefully I said that correctly with no bias at all. But anyway, that's been part of the discussion, and more is to be discussed and finalized on that. So,
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim.
Go ahead.
And the one thing I would ask Todd, if we shift that to the 5th, then that puts it over the Lake Powell pipeline meeting. And there's so many of you on staff that are involved in that. We'd need to switch one or the other.
that is a good point, and we will get the Lake Powell pipeline or the board meeting either in the morning or the afternoon so we can participate. So we'll work on the schedules. These are just dates right now, and we'll work on times. So
okay,
Joel, will you take note of that for that May 5th meeting?
I'm sorry, Todd, I had a distraction in here. I missed that.
Mr. Jim Lemon said that there's a potential conflict with the Lake Powell pipeline meeting on May 5th. Okay. And we'll just need to make sure we schedule that or move that meeting, one of the meetings around, so we can make sure we get to both. So,
okay.
I believe it was the March meeting, not the May meeting, Todd.
I
no,
Jim
it was the May meeting.
Oh, it is the May meeting. Okay, thank you. You guys were talking about water users, so that's where my mind was.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, so we need someone to make a motion on adopting the schedule. Anyone willing to make that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be willing to do that.
Okay, Jim, you'll make the motion on that.
Mr. Chairman, we also had talked about doing a tour, and I believe Norm was taking the lead on that in the southeast portion of the state. We'll have staff continue to work with Norm on when would be the best time, if the best time, depending on where the COVID protocols are. So
Probably the August meeting will be the best.
Okay.
Be hot down in San Juan, huh?
Well, yeah, but that also might be when we can find motel rooms and stuff.
True. Well, and maybe we'll end up doing another virtual like we did down in Washington County area too.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
We'll figure out something.
Yep, we'll figure something out. Great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda for the main meeting will be the director's report. Director Todd.
Yep, I'll plan on giving a short report. I've already talked about one, Utah water users, but I'll have about 3 or 4 other items to discuss. Blaine, you're muted. Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. I clicked what I thought was unmute. There we are. Okay. Okay, so the next item on the agenda will be the election of the 2021 water resource officers, the chair, vice chair. So historically, it's been a 1-year vice president, 1 year vice chair, 1 year chair, that type of thing. Whatever you board members want to do. I visited with each of you, and due to the unique circumstances, I would be willing, I'm not campaigning, but I would be willing to be the chair 1 more year with this COVID, with the electronic thing. As it's kind of been really different situation. I'm not lobbying for it. Whatever the board wants to do, I am completely good with. It would be less for me if I'm not, but I would be willing to do it again. So whatever the board wants to do on that, I'm good with.
Mr. Chairman,
this is Kyle. I'll be ready to make a motion in our regular board meeting relative to that, based on some previous discussions that we've had.
If you don't, I will.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim Lemon.
Go ahead, Jim.
While I've been on the board, we have had some that have been on for 2 years. And with this situation, I think it'd be good to have you there. Also, the other factor is because of the extra length of my term, it would still leave it where everyone would have a chance, because I wouldn't need one in the next round. I've been a chairman before, so it shouldn't throw that off of anybody getting eliminated.
Well, one thing I have liked, Jim, is I have not had an in-person meeting like your very first one was as a chair. So,
and I hope you don't get one of those.
Yeah, that was quite a meeting, I remember.
Mr. Chairman, I will say that I have been contacted by the boards and commissions component. We do have one board member, Charles Holmgren, that is ending or nearing the end of his term. He has expressed interest to continue to serve. We have talked to the boards and commissions about that. We don't know what will happen with the change in administration to the governor, and where that'll be directed, because you all are appointed by the governor and what have you. So we are working through that potential one board member chair. So we'll continue to work on that and see where that goes. So.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So Kyle, you'll make a motion on that one, it sounds like.
Yeah,
and
I'll be prepared to do that.
Okay, and then we will adjourn. So that gets us through the agenda for the 10 o'clock board meeting. Before we leave that and go back to our briefing agenda, any other comments or discussion, questions on the agenda for the 10 o'clock meeting? Okay, let's go back to the agenda on the briefing meeting. We just completed item number 2. Item number 3 then is information to the board. And one thing that's always been good to do on that is just an update on the status of funds. Should we cover that for just a little bit on what the update on the fund status is?
That would be great, and I would ask Joel to lead that discussion.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'm just scrolling in the report now to the status of funds. Okay. And it looks like it's not in the one on the board on the website. So anyway, it's going to take me just a second to get that up. So we've got, if we look in the Revolving Construction Fund, we can see that we've got now I'm having, okay. Here it is. Thank you for that. Took me a second there to get that up. The Revolving Construction Fund has a available beginning balance of about 11 million. If all projects go as forecasted, we will use all of that money on the authorized and committed projects. So that fund is, I would say, at capacity. The Cities Water Loan Fund had an available balance of about 8 million at the beginning of the year, and we have had 3 projects, one that's been closed, one committed, and one authorized, but we still have over $5 million available in the city's water loan fund. That water's available to, or that funding is available to municipalities, so we could take additional projects there. The Conservation and Development Fund is the largest one. It had a beginning balance of about 80 million, and with the projects that have been forecasted, we show that much of that would be used, but that even if everything that's on the books right now, as far as contracted, committed, and authorized, there would still be approximately $15 million available. And so that's good news there, that fund is healthy, it's being used, but there is still sufficient funding available. And then the last page of the status of funds kind of just shows additional projects that have an application but aren't necessarily moving forward to authorization committal at this point.
Joel?
Yes.
Joel, just one clarification. After previous discussions from the board, I did move like the Uinta project that has been authorized and was previously sitting on the C&D page, but is $36 million. Since they still wanted it there because it has been authorized, but it's not moving anytime soon. In accordance with the request with the board, I moved it to the future needs instead of leaving it on the C&D page. That's why the numbers have changed from what you've been seeing historically. We're not in the hole on the C&D page if everything's contracted. That still is authorized, so it could move forward all of a sudden if they decided they wanted to do that. But that's why it looks different than what it's looked like in the past. Just wanted to clarify that.
And if I remember, I think there are maybe a few other projects in that last page as well that actually were authorized, but were in kind of a holding pattern. So that's a fair point. So well, all in all, the fund balances are looking healthy, and I think we've got funding to handle all of the projects that are currently foreseeable. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the board asked us to go through the additional component and somewhat clean it up and contact them to see if they still were on. I believe that has been done, and that's why the one project has been moved to additional funds or future funds. We also are fairly aware of a couple other large projects that will be coming to the board, or at least have had some dialogue in doing that. So anyway, just so you're aware of that.
Okay, good. Appreciate that. Okay, any additional information, other items to discuss, Director Adams, Director Todd?
Before we go there, this is Kyle. Just to follow up from our last meeting discussion, I'd suggested or recommended that we include a date column in those status of funds reports so that we would have an idea as to how long some of those have been there and been on the books. That was a minute action item. And so, again, if that's something that could be looked at and perhaps incorporated into that report, that would be great.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. I'm sorry, I forgot about that, and I will make a note of that.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Adams.
Sorry, someone came into my office. It was actually Marty Bushman. He will be on our call at 10, but what was there a question, Mr. Chairman? Oh, you're muted. Mr. Chairman, I believe you're muted. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, I just wondered if we went over our finances, wondered if you had any other items that you would like to cover at this time?
Not that I'm aware of. We've got plenty of time. I can maybe give one of the items on my director's report now, and the rest of them I'll maybe save until the board meeting. As the governor-elect is working in his transition team, he has developed some transition teams working with the DNR, also with the rural communities component. They're reaching out and they're starting to do some interviews. I believe they have they need to submit a report to the lieutenant governor or governor-elect next week, and then ultimately they'll be making decisions on where they go. I've had an interview with 2 individuals on those things, and they went well. We'll just continue to see where the transition goes. As you probably saw yesterday, they started announcing new, I don't know if they're cabinet members or at least advisors, or maybe both, on the governor-elect's transition or team going forward. So just a quick update and the status on that. So just we'll see where it goes as I sit and think about things. I'm about 10 or 11 days short of being the director for about a year. It's been an awesome but crazy 2020. We'll continue to work hard for the citizens of the state of Utah as well as you all. And yes, we're behind on a couple things, but we're working hard to get them. And we'll talk a little bit about state water plan and a couple other things we're working on in the board meeting. So anyway, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, good, thank you. Anything else we need to discuss that anyone would like to bring up? We're to the last item on our briefing meeting agenda, and have plenty of time before 10 o'clock. Does anyone have anything else you'd like to discuss at this time? Jim, it looks like you've unmuted. Do you want to?
I had a question, not about that, but are we logging into the same place? Since I've had so many problems trying to log in, I'll just leave mine on.
That works. Yes, it is the same link for the board meeting.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Discussion? If not, then it's 9:08 right now on the little clock on my machine here, device. So do we have a motion to conclude this meeting? Motion second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, Jim's made a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second on it?
Second, Kyle.
Kyle's made a second. Prior to taking a roll call vote, is there any further discussion that anybody wants to have? Okay, roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Weaver River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tanner.
Aye. Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier. You unmute, Randy.
I think we may have lost him again.
Lost him again. Okay. Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Yes.
Okay, the roll call voting's taking place to conclude the meeting. Everybody, all board members with the exception of Randy Crozier, who apparently was lost in the meeting, got cut off. It was unanimous with the exception of Randy, who was not present for the roll call vote. So meeting concluded. You are welcome to just stay on the line or log in. It is the same link again. So we'll be back in a few minutes. The meeting does start at 10 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.